Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real.
Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. How are you doing? My name is William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of being the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. We have another opportunity today. Like, I am so blessed. I must have done something right. I am having another conversation with one of my new besties, best friends and stuff for a while, because I don't know how long she's gonna keep me, because things get a little weird with me sometimes. But so right now, Tifani Fisher, she is waiting backstage to come out and talk to you. We're going to talk about healthcare and healthcare for Black people in rural communities. It's crazy. Well, we all know that healthcare for Black people is not great across the board. When you start looking at any of the health disparities or any of the health indicators, you start noticing that there are significant disparities when it comes to Black communities, whether it's diabetes, heart disease, STIs, and things like that. There tends to be this larger impact in the Black community. A lot of people in their more cynical spaces or their more racist spaces just say, well, that's how Black people are. You know, that kind of thing happens to them. If you're one of the people that just believes this is what happens in those communities, congratulations, you have bought into white supremacy. No, don't be offended. It is literally just a fact. Because if you look at the situation and you believe that this is just the natural outcome for a group of people, and that outcome is less than for another group, it means by definition you believe that the other group, in this case white people, are superior to Blacks. Sit with that. Now, if that's not you, if you know, there's a lot of us who know that there's something wrong, there's something that is out there that we maybe can't just put our fingers on, then welcome to the opportunity to understand systemic racism and healthcare and the allocation of resources. We'll also get an opportunity, maybe, I don't know, we might get an opportunity to talk about comorbidities and the social determinants of health that really kind of drive a lot of the disease progression and the not just the incidence, but the prevalence of disease in Black communities. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I got to let you know what else we do. It wouldn't be a good show if I didn't talk about Breadcoin. Breadcoin is an organization that takes your donations and turns them into food for others. Breadcoin has a really great history of providing these coins, and these coins are minted, and each one, like right now, has a value of about $2.50. And so what happens is that these coins are distributed through an existing network of providers. And those providers make sure that the people who are in need get those resources. We are very grateful to have a partnership with Breadcoin, because in addition to just helping people meet their need, their food or their nutrition need, they also create a process or a platform where they can do it with dignity. So often, there's a stigma associated with being in need. And we need to get beyond that. Because, what does the book say? It say there, but for the grace of God. Hell, some of y'all forget that it wasn't but for we all went through it. So, okay, we're going to talk about some stuff. Some of you all have been through it. Don't forget what that felt like. Don't forget about the supports that you had to transition from that space to the other. And don't forget to pay it backwards or pay it forwards. Pay it in both directions. Just keep paying it, and everybody's happy. Go ahead, just keep paying it. No, don't get. See, y'all. Actually, you know what? I just realized I'm having an argument with you all, and you all are you all in my head, not even in real life. I apologize for that. Let's talk a little bit about the ongoing coverage, Politics 22. As you all know, the Maryland General Assembly election and gubernatorial election and federal representatives, some of them are up for office. And we've been keeping up with the candidates In addition to our own coverage, we have interviews with the candidates themselves. So you can get an opportunity to see who they are and really determine if they deserve your vote or not. A lot of times we talk about the wrong people getting in office after they do something wrong. Well, this is an opportunity for you to work on figuring out who they are and deciding whether they deserve to be in office or not. Let's see. Oh, the Grinding Gang. This is my company. Come and check us out. We have free membership, www.grindinggang. We have free monthly events. We have business documents like business plans. We have a video library or a knowledge library where we have all of these videos that really kind of help you work through the business process. Now, I'm going to tell you, and you all have heard me say this before, my belief about the way they teach business nowadays is that it's bullshit. Especially for entrepreneurs, particularly for entrepreneurs of color who come from disinvested communities. Because the way that they teach business now is based on this idea of being well-resourced. Many of us don't start from the point of being well-resourced. So as we're looking through the information that they provide, we need some help figuring out like, well, what's relevant to me? Because all information isn't good or all information doesn't fit you. Every business model is not universal to every person, to every market, to every target customer. And so what we do is we help you figure out how to make sense of all the noise, how to cut through all the information so that you can take your business to the level that fits you and that you want. Boom, shaka laka laka laka, a laka laka laka, a laka boom. Let's see what else. Because I got y'all know I gotta get through all my show notes. Because if I don't, somebody gonna say something and then blah blah blah. Then I might have to cut somebody out. You know, I probably end up cussing somebody out anyway. I just thought about that, but I'm not gonna volunteer for it. So I look at it. Looks like I got all my show notes done. You know what time that means? You know what it is? Yep. Do you know what it is? It's time to bring on Tifani. You ready? You ready?
Hi.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing very, very well. Very, very well. I am happy to talk to you. I was trying to take a sip out of my water, but I closed the top, and then I was very confused, but nothing came out. My mouth was a little dry, so I was like, Okay, now I'm hydrated. All right. Okay. So thank you for coming back. I enjoyed talking to you. Woo.
I love this space. Anytime, my brother, anytime.
Oh, I love it. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is healthcare in rural communities. We've been able to, here we talk about mental health a lot, and we talk about somatic health. Normally when we do, we talk about it in terms of particular disease vectors or particular conditions that affect African Americans. This is, I think this might be one of the first times that we're focusing in on the healthcare system, not just components of it, but the healthcare system and its actual impacts on Blacks holistically. And I know we've never done it in rural communities. So thank you for helping us break new ground, because this is a really great part of the conversation. Because I think a lot of times, and to some of our previous conversations, people look at the population density and assume resources should move with that. And the issue is that people are human and need help across the population spectrum, across the economic spectrum. And we put a lot of emphasis on how much money do you have as a metric for how much healthcare or how much life you should have. I'm sorry. And anybody who doesn't watch our show on a regular basis, feel free to go back to the other morning show clips and the link so you can catch up on our previous conversations about health and healthcare. But talk a little bit about what healthcare is like out in Allegheny County or out in your area.
Well, so for starters, we used to have 2 hospitals. We now have 1, although they claim that it's a little bit bigger. It doesn't feel that way. And this one hospital doesn't just serve Cumberland, it serves Frostburg and all of Allegheny County and some of the surrounding smaller areas of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Garrett County, depending on how close you are. So we're not talking about, even though it may not look like we have a population that needs a John Hopkins, right? Because we are serving such a wide spread of individuals, we need that. The other thing here is the transportation and how far out you can live. So I live in Allegheny County and I live in Cumberland, so the hospital is maybe 10, 15 minutes away from my house. But you can live in Allegheny County and the hospital still be 45 minutes from your house.
Wow.
Right?
One way?
And if you are closer to Garrett County or closer to Pennsylvania, you have to make a decision. Just like the people on the Mason-Dixon line over on the Pennsylvania side have to make a decision. Is Cumberland closer, or is the hospital for their area closer? So then you start talking about the wheel of insurance, right? So I've said it 1,000 times that I live in a poor community, so most people have insurance to the state. So if you go to a hospital that is not in your plan and out of state, then you're looking at taking up bills, right? Bills that you can't afford to pay because we don't have jobs here and we're poor. So that whole wheel of just going, and that's regardless if you're Black or white, right? And then because we are in this area, a lot of times what we deal with at the hospital are hospitalists. So they are not our regular doctors. They are not people that have clinics outside of the space. They are there and they bounce all around. And so they don't know you. They don't know your body. They don't know your community. You don't know what you're exposed to, right? Wow. So you take that and then you throw in that we have a huge fentanyl and heroin issue here. And I struggle with using epidemic because it didn't become that until it started killing white folks. So I struggle with that. But it is huge here. In 2017, we could see an average of 21 deaths, I believe it was, a week, which is big for here, right? A week, and overdoses a week, excuse me. So it is so common here to see an overdose and be addicted to drugs that you can hear people talking about it in the checkout at the market. We carry around Narcan, and it's nothing for anybody to say, do you have Narcan? I get stopped on the street and asked if I have Narcan, right? Wow. And some of the other people I know, because we're known to be members of the community, right? So we have the drug issue here. We have limited resources here. We don't have a lot of mental health facilities here. So the hospital, we have one which is called the Finance Center. The hospital is where you go until or if you can get into Maxie or the Finance Center, right? And then we have an importation of people coming in, where the Union Rescue Mission is sometimes can be more full. It's our only homeless shelter. Can be more full of people that came off the train from Baltimore or the surrounding areas that are actually local here. So you take those things, right, and you put them in a box. So now we already have those things that we're competing against. Right. And now I'm coming in and I'm Black. And I've lived this experience. So I'm going to be a little bit wordy for a minute. Okay. All right. On the other conversations you heard that I'm not a doctor, but I have enough medical background. I worked in nursing homes for years. I take care of myself. So I was in pain. I go to the doctor. I'm telling them that there's an issue with my body. I can feel and put out where it is. I'm turned away. I'm turned away and sent home. I'm turned away because this doctor automatically assumes that I'm looking to get a prescription for pain pills. I go home. I go back again. I'm turned away again. Finally, my family has to call 911. Within an hour of getting back to the hospital, I'm shipped out to Pennsylvania to have emergency surgery, which came with 14 surgeries after it because I had an infection going through my entire body. That story probably sounds like that's awful. I can't believe this happened to you. But within the year that I got sick, 4 other Black people in my community had the exact same experience. Right? It is, and it's not, I don't want to put this on necessarily just the doctors and the nurses that work there. I want to put it on training, but there are limited Black and brown doctors that are here, and there is a stigma that if you come in a pain, the first thing one knows is if you're on drugs. Right? There is a stigma that when I say I hurt, that because I'm a Black woman in particular, that my pain is not, I can handle it more, or because I'm not in tears and frantic and hyperventilating, and that's not how I process my pain, that I'm not in a level of pain that I have here. So honestly and truthfully, when people say they're sick here, the first thing we say is, are you going to go to Pittsburgh? Do you think you can make it the 2 hours to 2.5 hours to Johns Hopkins? If not, do you think we can get you to Ruby Memorial in West Virginia? And what typically happens at this hospital is that they don't keep you anyway. So even when you go there, they're only stabilizing you to ship you to those places. So I have an older daughter that has heart disease, and her entire young life, they would tell me all the time, there was literally times the doctors would say, drive as far as you can to get to the West Virginia line, which is the West Virginia line from Frostburg going to Morgantown is probably about 40 miles, 45 miles out, and then stop once you're across the border and call 911 there so that she could be admitted to Ruby Memorial. I would have to go in and tell them, you can't touch her. You can't do this. You have to call Ruby, because they don't have a peds unit. They just opened up a children's hospital recently, but prior to that, we had no peds unit here. So during the midst of COVID, we have one hospital. We have to have beds because we have so much issues with ODs, right? We have no peds unit. Where do we go? What do we do? Also, nobody cared, and this, I'm very passionate about this. When the governor was leaving it in the city officials and the commissioners' hands to make a decision on what they were going to do, we still had no mask mandates. We had the lowest rate of vaccination rates. Now, I just want to point this out so everybody knows that wasn't us. There's only 3% of Black people up here, right? So to have the lowest in the state, that ain't coming from Black folks, even though they tried to portray that and say we weren't going to getting vaccinated. It wasn't us, right? Yeah. So when you think about healthcare here, you have to think about the fact that not only do we have the same issues that you have in Baltimore, but we are already going into an untrusted environment where we, the patient, are untrusted. We, the patient, are untrusted. It's not just a situation where they try to play it like, oh, Black people don't trust medical professionals. And, you hear all this stuff about Tuskegee or whatever. And that part we haven't even got to yet. We are not trusted as the patient. Wow. My pain is not trusted. Me telling you what happened to me is not trusted. And there's nobody typically there Black that can reassure me that what I'm saying is going to be heard. You can't find a Black mental health therapist here. There is none. Wow. We have a Black pediatrician. We love shout out to Dr. Williams. We love Rodney Williams. He's amazing. He's been here for a long time. But I can call his name like that because he's the only one here. We have two black eye doctors, and we just got a Black psychiatrist that works out at the Finance Center. But for me to pick up the phone and say, I would like to see a Black mental health professional, a therapist, I don't have that option here. So even in counseling, I'm explaining my Blackness before they can give me therapy and hoping they can understand me. So it is hugely different here. And we are at a way bigger risk because you're holding your breath until you can get to a facility that can take care of you. And I get that there's different hospitals and cities, and there's always the hub, right? So John Hopkins is that for you, or University of Maryland. But getting across town versus going 2 hours through the mountains, 2.5 hours through the mountains is completely different. So that's what it is. That's what healthcare is here. And it's not to negate the people that are working in the system. It's just that the system is so set up in systematic racism. And then you throw in the fact that there are just white folks that don't like Black folks and Black folks that don't like Black folks. I spoke to a Black physician, and she said they were never taught how to look at Black skin.
Oh, yeah.
So in my own illness, right? I'm dark complected, I'm chocolate, and I love it, right? The reason why the doctor could not diagnose me is because he could not see what was happening on my Black skin.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to accept that.
Or even not just accept it, but kind of feel bad for them when they get caught, when it gets caught that they made a mistake. You ever notice that part where it has to be like, well, I tried, or you should at least know that they did their best. They just had never seen it before. That's okay. So because the problems that you're describing are kind of two-tiered. One is just healthcare in general, like the resources that are just generally available in the community are limited. And then you throw on top of that the disparate treatment and the social determinants that impact Black people are something separate. Let's look at the first part first, like the just sheer infrastructure. In your research, have you been able to ascertain why there hasn't just been more resources put into developing the public health or the health infrastructure in your area?
I think that honestly and truthfully, when they built this new hospital, which is only about, I'd say 10 years old, maybe 12, somewhere like that. When they built it, the intention was to do it. It was not supposed to just bring in better doctors. It was also supposed to bring in more business. So the hospital was supposed to be this big, huge space, and then these restaurants and hotels and stuff were supposed to build around this hospital that had this focus on the best heart care in the area and cardiac care in the area, the best cancer center, which I will give credit. We do have a really good cancer center. Okay. But they, that was kind of like their business plan, like their get out of free jail card. Like, so it's this mimic of what they try to do with John Hopkins and other places. But what they were looking at was West Virginia. So West Virginia has Ruby Memorial, which is a teaching hospital, which is great. Mm-hmm. It's right across from campus. They're known for their children's hospital. Mm-hmm. Around that, it just became the hub of the community. Then there's Chestnut Ridge, and it just pocketed out into this whole WVU health system, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is that worked there because West Virginia University is literally across the parking lot. Yeah, so there is
a feeder of customers.
A feeder of it. Yeah. Yes. But it's also a feeder of students. It's a feeder of doctors and nurses that want to build a life there and stay there. So we don't have that. Our hospital, where they put ours, is across from it was a community college. Now they're calling it Allegheny College of Maryland. So it's not a community college anymore per se, but it is. Mm-hmm. So, and they have a great nursing program there, but it's not the same. So it's like I don't feel like anybody ever came up here and said, this is how you do this the correct way.
For this population.
And maybe we don't need to take $4 million and put it into one hospital and put everything there. Maybe we need to have smaller hospitals with equipment pocketed around the whole entire area. And so I just don't think it's ever been done correctly anywhere before. So I don't know. I don't think anybody has the master plan, if that answers your question.
Okay. So that explains like how you got here now. How has the community voice, not even based again at this point, not even talking about racially, but how has the community voice in this really broad range of Western Maryland, West Virginia, and all these spaces, has the community kind of said like, hey, this is not acceptable, we need you all to put some more stuff in it? And what has been the response to that?
Okay, so the community complains all the time. We've had a lot of transfer over. So the name of the hospital has changed several times. And they were at one point in time, I believe, paired up with Hopkins, or there were talks of it. Now we are part of Pittsburgh's, so UPMC.
Okay.
And yes, UPMC in Presby saved my life. So I know how good they can be when they're good. I also have done the research and saw what they do for that community in Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas. So still have issues, still have people complaining, still not getting the service that I feel like my community needs.
We call that Johns Hopkins. I get it.
Yeah. But I will say that UPMC has done, they have tried to reach out and build partnerships. So one thing that we did this year is that we connected with them and they attended some of our events and trying to work with them, to partnership with them so they can come out and hear some of our communities, genuine complaints. What do they need? Instead of throwing all their money into saying we're going to do these diabetes classes and nobody shows up, how can they make sure the information gets there? So I will give credit that the change in that and the want to change that has really shifted with this new ownership. Okay. But again, I feel like the big deal is sitting down and saying, having this huge space, right? This one place where we go doesn't work here. I don't even think it works in Baltimore or major cities. But
there's not just one place we go. Even the way they've done it here is they put the hospital systems together. So even one hospital is part of a larger system now.
So when you only have one hospital, and granted, we have a couple little clinics, but it doesn't matter, right? So I'm hoping that because I saw the way that UPMC is set up in Pennsylvania, how they have these different hospitals. Like, so if you're at Presby, you're there for trauma, infection, blah, blah, a Shady Side. And then there's a different hospital or different place that you go that deals just with cancer. And so that means that everybody's there. When I was in the hospital, what I was impressed was from the housekeeper to the doctor, everybody had experience in infection control. Everybody understood while I was there. When they had a team meeting, even the housekeeper was there so that the housekeeper would know if she went in the room, how much cleaning I needed, if I asked for something, what to look for, blah, blah, blah. Now, she can't give me a treatment, right? Because she's a housekeeper. Right. But just knowing, that's what I was impressed with. I was impressed with the transparency of how every day in the morning they came out and said, this is what our treatment plan is for you today. These are the medications you're going to have a day. Gave it to me early enough so when the doctor and the team came in, I can ask questions. I can say, what does this mean, right? Very transparent with my family. It felt like I was in control and I had a team of healthcare professionals that were going to help me. And I feel like as a Black woman and the history of how healthcare treats us, that made me feel safe. It made me feel powerful. And I know for a fact it's the reason why I went from you'll never walk again and you're not going to make it out of here alive to telling them I'm going to be out and home by June 11th because I have a Juneteenth festival and my community needs me. And walking with a stand-up walker, but walking into that festival with my head held high, right?
Awesome.
awesome through prayer, whatever, but just that experience compared to what I experienced going through with my daughter, myself, and my family at this hospital here, I was like, what a difference it makes, right? There was a mental health professional, a counselor that came down and said, you're going through a lot right now. Do you need to talk? Here's some coping mechanisms. All of that stuff was done there. So I just feel like
you mean
general,
done that stuff was done locally, or that stuff was done in Pittsburgh?
In Pittsburgh.
Okay, I was like, whoa, okay, gotcha.
I had a social worker. I had a therapist there. I had a team to talk to me about nutrition and diet before I left. There was somebody there talking to me about what my house needed to be set up whenever I left. A regular nurse, an ostomy nurse. Like there was like 10 people on the team. 10 people on the team, right? And it was encouraged that I ask questions versus here, it was like, it feels like you can't ask a question or your questions aren't answered. You find yourself texting everybody at home, asking everybody to pull into their jar of, you know, what I've been through to try to help navigate through it. And I was impressed by that because I feel like that's how healthcare should be attacked at all the time. And I'm going to segue off. When we talk about the structure of healthcare, the fact that this call even started with you saying we've talked about mental health, we've talked about physical health, now we're talking about the system. I feel like the approach needs to be that all of them are together. What I experienced and what everybody that was on that unit experienced was traumatic, right? So if you don't talk about, if you don't talk, that's why it's called trauma. If you don't talk about how that trauma affected me mentally as well as physically at the same time, that I'm going back and playing catch up with my mental to get there. And I'm not saying I did everything perfect and that people don't have to continue counseling and stuff, but just to have that component and that option there instead of, oh, you can talk to your minister if you want to, or clergy, and we'll work on your physical health. To have them combined, I was very impressed with that. And I feel like as a structure, we need to start that, right? So go ahead.
So one of the things that we do here is that when we find some good shit, we celebrate it. So we're going to spend a little bit more time shouting those out. If you remember anybody's name, we're going to call them out. You remember the location, whatever it is we know about them, we want to call them out. Because again, finding people who do good things is like, what do they say? You got to give them their flowers. You know, when I was young, it wasn't giving them their flowers. It was the heartbeat props with Digital Underground. Cause you know, and by the way, open platform, especially with the praise that you are providing them, if there's anybody from that team that just wants to go and talk about their philosophy, I would love to have that, because if this is a model, we need to lift it up. We need to make sure that people get an opportunity to be like, hey, you know, Tifani Fisher, the Allegheny chick, she said Pittsburgh is amazing. I want to find out what they did. And we want to be a platform for that, because it's easy to find a list of scandals real quick. It's easy to find a list of, oh, I hate this doctor, I had this, but it's time for us, especially in our community, to start celebrating the stuff that transforms, especially our health experience. So again, so let's shout them out. Let's call their names, whoever they are.
So that would be Presbyterian Hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Dr. O'Neill and his team. My favorite nurse was Minnie. She's amazing. My little Indian lady who promised me her ride on her elephant. The housekeeper's name was Tifani. I'm going to miss tons of nurses, but I want to thank all of you so much for being such a huge support and even contacted me after I left to make sure that I was safe. And the way you guys work together and do your job really makes an impact on people's lives. It changed mine. It saved mine. And I thank you for that.
Hey, I appreciate it. And I thank you for doing that, because again, it is, I know for me, you know, there have been times where things have not been going well in my life. And it, you know, sometimes I'm like, you know, why the hell am I even doing any of this? I need to rethink, and I'm doing this in the community's not back, or I put myself in it, and then I get an email from somebody that's like, oh, you suck, and we're gonna call it. And then in those moments, somebody's like, hey, oh, I remember you, I went to your workshop and I was able, and it's like, literally, they have no idea how that can be just enough to keep pushing. Mm-hmm. Just enough when you get ready to sit down, it's like, you know what? It's not even, it is worth it. You know what? Okay. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and try this shit again.
It's a reminder, right, that you're heard, but it's also a reminder that you're making a difference in humanity. And that's my thing, right? So I appreciate that. That's why whenever you're like, do you want to come back? I'm like, yes, because I feel like your platform and I feel honored to be on this platform, is so important, because it's an authentic space to be able to tell our story, and not like just tell our story like the news today said, but to tell our story about us so that we can make big changes, because people are going to connect with you when you're authentic, right? So right. It's important for Black women to know that doesn't happen, and that's not to negate a Black man's experience in a hospital, and that's not what I'm trying to do. Absolutely. But we know statistically that it is Black women that have the major issue. To be able to share my story, to say not only it is possible to have this, it's okay to ask for it.
Yes.
It's okay to ask for it. So when I had a loved one, and
push back. It is okay to demand it. You are a paying customer, and literally your life is on the line. Like, we're not talking about like, could you just, my burger wasn't at medium well. Literally life and death, like your quality of life. I have friends who have fibromyalgia, Graves' disease, lupus, and other chronic conditions. And like literally, one of them had to fight, like yell, scream at her doctor, because they took the picture of her midsection and they couldn't, everything looked fine. There's nothing wrong. She's like, it's killing me. It hurts so bad. No, and do you just want some pain meds? And she was like, no, I don't want pain meds. I don't want pain meds. I want this to stop. And they said, well, it looks okay. And she literally crying, screaming, begging them to cut her open just to make the pain go away. When they got in, what they found is that one of her ovaries had fused to the skin and the bone in her hip area, in her pelvic area. But on the X-ray, it does look right, because it's exactly where it needs to be. But an X-ray can't tell you that it's fusing to the other flesh. And that's what I'm saying, like the demand, because like I am embarrassed, but at a certain point I got my friends back no matter what. And if she say we riding, but I was like, yo, all of the doctors are saying like it looks right. Now, but if I believe you are hurting, I am stuck. And I am grateful that I stuck by her and wasn't with them like, oh, there ain't nothing wrong with you. So that's why I just said the pushback isn't that you should ask for it. You should demand it. It's your fucking life.
And I will say this to echo that, and you are absolutely right. Take an advocate with you, because my saving grace in that situation is that I took my partner, Richard, with me. He's very quiet, which I'm sure you can assume, my brother, that you kind of have to be quiet to live with me because I talk a lot. But when we were there, he's a good listener. And so in all the years of his listening, what he demanded was that I have a CT scan. Mm-hmm. And because he demanded that, when I got taken out of here, when a new doctor from Presby, because I was blessed, right? God of the ancestors was on time. Whenever I went the first time to the hospital, they sent me home, I was still at Western Maryland Health System. Whenever I went whenever I went and I got sent out, we had just moved over to being a part of Pennsylvania's healthcare system. So this new doctor from Presby was able to pull up that scan and said, she's got to go right now. If I would have waited and had to wait my turn for it to be scanned and for it to be reviewed, I would not be speaking to you right now. So have somebody there with you. And also, HIPAA is a great thing, but somebody should know your business. Okay? Somebody needs to know your healthcare story. They need to know what medication you're on, what diagnosis. They don't need to know milligrams and how many pills you take a day, but they should be able to give a general list. They should know what illnesses you have, and and please make sure that you have some type of living will that says that you want to live, so that everything is done. Because if you don't, that's your choice. But if you don't have something in writing saying, I want you to do everything humanly possible to save my life, they are not going to do everything humanly possible to save your life.
Well, the other part of it too, if you don't want them to do artificial things to save your life, that's another reason to have it. And so,
write it down.
I also want to extend on this, and I'm gonna put on the attorney part. As you are putting together your list, it is not a big deal to start estate planning, to talk about your will, to talk about insurances. Because let me. There's a spoiler alert. I didn't want to ruin the rest of the show of life for you, but spoiler alert: you die. It happens. It's like your show ends. Like it's going. I don't know, because a lot of people act like it's going to be what show it's been on forever. Hell, I'm surprised The Simpsons is still on. And so like you're going to die. It is. And now I'm not suggesting you rush it. Not suggesting that at all. But don't pretend that you're not. It is scary. It is life. Even the contemplation of it is life altering. Real talk. It's not going to be easy. It may not feel good. It honestly, it probably should feel pretty scary and icky. It should. But it needs to be done. Primarily because of the people you leave behind. I've seen so many families even if they weren't close before, it gets real ugly. And some of the ones that were close, it gets ugly just because, and some of it not even over the money. It is dealing with unresolved family stuff. Like, who's more important? Who's the, she would have wanted me to have this because, I took care of her and that part starts. You could avoid all that. You're going to die. But it's important, as we're talking about right now, how you put things together so you can live how you want to, and then make sure that your assets are disposed of that in a way that fits your will and your desire. So just wanted to put that out there.
I'm an advocate for this too, because a lot of people don't realize that life insurance also has avenues to pay for whenever you get cancer, whenever you get sick. And I'm one of those people that doubled down, right? I doubled down on all that insurance because I had the unfortunate experience of my father dying at unexpectedly at what I consider to be a young age, right? And so I doubled down on all that stuff. That insurance helped me to be able to take the time off that I needed to heal correctly. Wow. So I did get the big fancy stand-up walker and not have to take the little metal one to learn how, because I'm 6 foot tall. I did get to have the benefit of having everything I needed to be at home earlier with fancy air mattresses and all the equipment that I needed, because I had this insurance that I just paid an extra $15 a paycheck for, which I had been doing for 10 years, and everybody thought that I was stupid. But when I came home, I didn't miss a paycheck. That all paid for my paycheck until my family leave act ran out. So it isn't just about what happens if you die. It's about what happens when you're working on how you survive. Amen. And if I didn't have those funds, then besides just worrying about getting myself back and learning how to walk again, I would have to tackle learning about keeping my water on, the gas on, how to eat, how to feed my kids, how I pay my daughter's tuition. All of that stuff came, and I didn't have to worry about none of it. It was taken care of. So when you talk about planning for the next step in life, you should always have a backup plan, because it's $15 now. that can take care of you, your children later, living or dead. And so, not to be a insurance salesperson, but I do think it's something that you do need to sit down and think about. And what I will say is someone who has dealt with, I did a lot of hospice care. It's a lot easier to take care of those things when you're not emotional. So if you know that you want a certain song played, if you know that you want brother so-and-so to read this scripture, what's the harm in writing it down on a piece of paper? But you really need to make sure, going back to healthcare, when you talk about healthcare, we need to quit putting it back in those boxes. Financial health affects your mental health, affects your physical health, mental health, which affects your physical health, which we go back to deal with your economic health again. And all of that is health. And we can separate them to learn about them, but we should not separate them in life. So if you want to be spiritually healthy, if you get up and you go to the church house every Sunday and the Bible study every Wednesday, then there should be no reason why you don't go to the doctor every month or 2 months. There should be no reason why you don't go and check with a financial planner at least every 6 months. Some people making more than that should probably go every quarter. There should be no reason why you don't. All of those things are about you being healthy.
Hey man, just look at you. You about to get pass a collection plate and some stuff. I like it.
Seriously though, we're taught so much being healthy is eating the right foods, exercising, that's being healthy. No, it has been proven. It is proven that your environment and your mental health dictate how your physical body acts.
Absolutely. You ain't never lied. And I think that belief and that understanding really does inform how you engage the community, because it's really easy in a good fight to get caught up on one aspect of it. It's easy to focus on all of the ridiculous political stuff, or the stuff with crime, or the stuff with health. But understanding that we are holistic creatures and all of these things impact us, I think really puts you in a position where you can utilize that perspective to lead people in places that protect the entire community, instead of moving all the resources over here and they're like, oh, okay, now let's move them all over here. Okay, now let's move them all over here again. The pendulum model of policymaking sucks.
It sucks. And here's the thing. Nobody's saying that has to be your thing, right? So I have spent a huge chunk of my life being the connector, right? Mm-hmm. So somebody wants help with their spiritual help. Here's a list of ministers. Here's a list of rabbis. Here's a list of other ways. There's a group of meditation. There's all these groups, right? Here's your resource list. All right. Somebody needs help. Like, that's how I got my niche in the community. Somebody needs help, right? Somebody comes to me and they need help with their housing situation. My housing chair from the NAACP is going to connect her to my community outreach engagement chair. And that community outreach engagement chair is going to connect, okay, now you have a house. What about a job? So let me connect you to our labor chair to see if there's any jobs available for you out there, any openings that we have, right? And then we're going to just keep connecting her around the circle in the pot of the NAACP or that family. Like, you got kids, why aren't they in junior youth council, right? Right? And just keep going on and on and on until eventually all of their needs have been addressed, not answered, not fixed, but at least addressed. At least addressed. And I see that model. My partner Richard works for social services. And because we are in such a small pocket of Maryland, I noticed that our social services does that. So they might not be able to help you with anything, but they will start sending you to different places. And then each place sends you to another place and another place and another place. And I was like, well, dang, why can't there be a one-stop spot where you can come get answers to all of this instead of having to go through this intake everywhere? So in our group, you do one intake. And then we look at the intake at the branch and we're like, do they need this? Do they need that? Do they need this? Right? Because a legal redress issue still comes with needing somebody to talk to about being in that space.
Whatever it was that got you there.
Whatever that got you there. If you lost your job because they racially discriminated against you, you don't just need help with the job. You need help processing how that affected you, right? You need a spiritual counselor, whatever your choices of that, to speak to help you with that spiritually, because that's different than going to a therapist. Let's not confuse the same thing. Talking to a counselor is not talking to your spiritual advisor. I will make that clear too.
And vice versa. And vice versa.
And vice versa. And I say that because God will see you through, and I believe that in my heart. But that is different than talking to somebody about my feelings and my emotions.
Absolutely. He doesn't really do that. He's a big picture kind of guy. Yeah.
That's not the same thing. So I feel like if the government, and I feel like that was the intention, and this goes back to how the system was set up. I feel like when welfare was set up, that was the intention, a space to come and address the needs. And I know you're about to get me. I see your eyebrows going up. I know all the ugliness behind it, but the intention of that program, right, was the place to come and set and address the immediate needs of people, but then set them out on a plan so they can become self-sufficient again.
Yeah.
Right.
The only caveat to that is you didn't say white, but other than that, everything is right, you said.
Right. So, and that comes from those different living environments, right? Because where I'm from, most of the people on welfare are white.
No, I'm saying the welfare system you're talking about. What it
in
was
general.
Designed,
yes.
It was designed for white people to do exactly those things. When it shifted and started taking care of non-white people, then all of a sudden it's like, we need to have more accountability. So I'm saying, like, the way you're talking about the system makes perfect sense. Except
have you ever read the book about Fannie Lou Hamer, who's my favorite all-time person, called Walk With Me?
No, I have not.
Okay. Either you need to get it or I'm gonna send it to you, because
I got some Audible credits though. I don't get it. Okay. What's the name of the book?
Walk With Me. It's the story of Fannie Lou Hamer, and it talks about her journey in the process of being involved with the NAACP and all that stuff. But really, a lot of people don't realize is that she was out there fighting for her entire community because they were hungry.
Oh, that's what got her into it?
That's what got her into it. She wanted to feed her community because they were sharecroppers and they were hungry. But when you read that story, when you read that book and it talks about her life, there's an interesting parallel in there about welfare and how it got started and what it was supposed to do and how it got turned and it wasn't getting filtered down to them, how it was originally supposed to go to those sharecroppers, who some of them were white, and help them, and it went to the richer white folks, right? And then there's a spot. This brings me to my grandfather. My grandfather used to say, he's a Depression baby. Mm-hmm. And he said, the funniest thing he's ever seen white people do is go nuts when they didn't have anything but beans and bread to eat and start throwing their own shit out the window. When we've been living off of beans and bread for years. So there was a part of him that understood that during the Depression that they needed more help than he did because they did not know how to survive without their wealth.
Privilege is a bitch.
And yeah. And I was like, you weren't mad? He was like, I was mad, but I've been growing up planting my own stuff, making food stretch, doing all that my whole life. So the only thing changed was supply. The supply changed because they were in control of the supply. He was like, but for us, we were fine. We had been planting our own vegetables and, using turnips and making something out of it for years. So that stuck with me and resonated with me. and not probably for the reason people think, because I grew up in a way very privileged. My daddy would tell you she comes from money. My parents were well off, and so were my grandparents. But materialistic things never held great value to me. Because I grew up with my parents still being humble enough. My mom's from 10 kids, grew up with an outhouse, sleeping, that kind of thing. So, and my dad grew up with a single mom for most of his life and lived in the projects. So I got it, right? Now I start seeing, when we're talking and getting back to the original topic, like the expense of healthcare. When you think about the debt that someone has who has cancer. Now, let me explain to you. I come from an area where there was a lot of pollution because of the mills that we have here. So a lot of people have cancer and other diseases because of the pollution. But the amount of debt that you go in because of cancer, you mean to tell me America can't fix something with that?
I just noticed the time again.
Oh my gosh, we're crazy. Right. We're crazy every time.
I just noticed, I was like, wait, that can't be right, because I got my glasses on. I was like, that can't be. Oh no, it's right. But I want to end on the point you just made. The American healthcare system is an example of our moral rot, not decay, but rot. We literally live in a space where there can be a pill or a needle or a person that can do a procedure on you that will save your life or improve the quality of your life. And we as a society are comfortable saying, no, you should die because you don't have enough money. Like that is, we are very comfortable with that. We wring our hands and we mash our teeth and we clutch our pearls and we decry the entire system. But every day we wake up and we participate in it. And so, when Bernie talks about Medicare for all and healthcare for all, and then you look in places like Europe and Canada and damn near everywhere else that is industrialized to our level, they have it. So again, what you described is not so much just an indictment on the healthcare system, but I would suggest that it is a reflection of the moral rot.
I do too. We play God, and we allow them to play God.
Yeah, and dudes and chicks who have like no reference point, sitting in a room, that have no idea who I am, what I am, but on their matrix chart it says that this medicine for me at this stage, my life, I'm not in critical enough pain to worry, or my disease has not progressed enough to do that. I do not have symptoms sufficient to take a test to make sure, because that might cost you an extra $200-$300.
Yep.
And that's okay for us.
Complacency and the disconnect from humanity. That's really what it is. We don't look at each other and value each other as human beings anymore. And we've allowed titles, education, and wealth to dictate who has value in our society.
I mean, think about this. In our society under law, you and Coca-Cola have the same rights because corporations are people. So if these conceptual beings can be people, then what does that make us?
Yeah.
We are no longer. But see, we're about to do it again. I saw again. I felt it getting ready to happen. Slaves
with rights. With rights.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna let you go.
Brother. We're gonna get in trouble. I don't want you to get in trouble
again. Honestly, I'm gonna have to just get. We just have to have a separate. Well, damn, we do have a separate show for you. Damn, we're gonna figure something out. You're way too fun to talk to. Goddamn it.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. You be blessed. Have a wonderful week. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. Right. As always, I've had a great time.
All right, talk to you soon. God bless.
Oh, look at what did I tell y'all? I know dope people. I know dope people. I don't think that's a song either. I don't know where all this stuff is coming from in my head because it sounded songish to me. I don't know. All right. I so appreciate Tifani coming down and really blessing us and giving us a really great perspective of what it's like to be in the situation in a community that doesn't have a lot of healthcare resources and what it's like to be a Black woman there. Like I am so grateful that she was willing to share her story with us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all so much. Big up to the production team, Kyle Crazy Horse Morgan, Brandy Raymar, and Grace Awaka. We will be Black later.